You can't hide this.
I'm not. You don't understand.
Then explain it now.
They'll bury us both.
Not if we move first.
Where the heat distorted the horizon into a shimmering lie. In the heart of this wasteland, miles from the nearest highway, sat the Oasis, a billion-dollar ultra-luxury resort and private sanctuary for the world's most powerful elite. The Oasis wasn't just a hotel. It was a fortress of glass and steel, guarded by a private army and shielded by the most advanced surveillance technology on the planet. To the billionaires and politicians who frequented it, it was a place where their darkest secrets were safe. Into this den of lions walked a woman who called herself Mirage. She was a quiet, unassuming woman in her late 30s with calloused hands and a steady, downcast gaze. She had been hired as a night shift sanitation and waste management specialist, a job that involved cleaning the high-tech kitchens, mopping the marble floors of the grand lobby, and emptying the trash from the high-security executive wing. To the security team at the Oasis, men who were former French Foreign Legionnaires and private contractors led by a man named Julian Thorne, Mara was a piece of equipment. Thorne was a man who measured worth by the thickness of a wallet or the caliber of a weapon. He took a sadistic pleasure in humiliating the service staff. He would intentionally break glass bottles in the hallways just to watch Mara pick up the shards on her hands and knees. He mocked her simple life, telling his men that people like Mara were background noise, born to serve those who actually mattered. He once forced her to clean the entire outdoor pool deck with a hand brush in the middle of a 110-degree afternoon, laughing while he sipped iced champagne from the balcony. Mara never complained. She never looked him in the eye. She simply worked, her face a mask of exhaustion and submission. Thorne and his crew were convinced she was a broken woman with no past and even less of a future. But Mara was a lie constructed of cold, hard facts. She was actually Colonel Mara Sandstorm Vance, a legendary operator from the U.S. Army's most secretive Tier 1 unit. She was a master of infiltration, a ghost who had spent 20 years operating in the most dangerous corners of the globe. She hadn't come to the Oasis for a paycheck. She was there because the resort was a front for a massive international dark data exchange. Julian Thorne wasn't just a head of security. He was a gatekeeper for a network that sold top-secret government intel to the highest bidder. Mara's mission was to wait for the black box, a physical hard drive containing the identities of every deep-cover agent in the Middle East, and intercept it before it could be sold. For 3 months, she had played the role of the invisible janitor, her cleaning cart actually housing a high-powered signal jammer and a microfiber optic camera. She had mapped every biometric lock, every hidden stairwell, and the exact timing of the guard rotations. The situation turned from a mission to a rescue on a Tuesday night. A young girl named Elena, who worked in the resort's laundry room, accidentally walked into a private lounge where Julian Thorne was meeting with a group of foreign buyers. She saw the open briefcase, the encrypted drives, and the stacks of illegal currency. Before she could run, Thorne's men grabbed her. They dragged her to the sub-basement, a soundproofed area used for handling problems. Mara, who was mopping the hallway outside, saw the girl being taken. She knew Elena. She was a kind, hardworking girl who sent her entire paycheck home to her mother in Tucson. Mara knew that if she didn't act, Elena would never leave the desert alive. She also knew that the black box was in that room. The mission and the moral obligation had finally collided. Thorne was in the sub-basement, leaning over Elena with a cold, predatory smile. He told her that in the Oasis, people didn't just quit, they disappeared. He raised a hand to strike her, but the heavy steel door to the room hissed open. Mara walked in, still wearing her grease-stained janitor's uniform, pushing her cleaning cart. Thorne barked to her to get out, calling her a stupid hag and threatening to throw her out into the desert. Mara didn't leave. She stopped the cart, reached into a bucket of soapy water, and pulled out a suppressed Glock 19. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was no longer a whisper. It was a low, lethal vibration that made the air in the room feel heavy. She told Thorne to take his hand off the girl, or he wouldn't live long enough to regret it. The guards erupted in laughter, thinking the cleaning lady had finally lost her mind. One of them lunged forward to grab the gun, but he never made it. In a blur of movement that defied the guard's training, Mara fired 2 shots. Both hit the guard in the non-lethal but incapacitating points of his shoulders, dropping him instantly. Before the others could draw their weapons, Mara had flipped the cleaning cart, using it as tactical cover. She wasn't a janitor anymore. She was a storm. She moved through the room with the precision of a master, using close-quarters combat techniques that left Thorne's elite mercenaries gasping for air on the floor. In less than 30 seconds, the nobody had neutralized 4 of the most highly trained men in the facility. Thorne retreated into the main security hub, locking the biometric
You
doors
can't hide this.
I'm not. You
triggering
don't
the full
understand.
Then explain it now.
They'll
He
bury
ordered
us
50
both.
Not if we move
armed guards
first.
to hunt down the intruder and kill her and the girl. He still didn't realize who he was dealing with. He thought he was fighting a lucky civilian. Mara, however, had already bypassed the resort's main server. She cut the power to the entire complex, plunging the glass palace into total darkness. In the blackness, the desert wind began to howl against the windows, sounding like a chorus of ghosts. Mara put on her night vision goggles and whispered to Elena to stay behind her. The hunt had begun, but the roles had been reversed. What followed was a tactical nightmare for Julian Thorne's men. Mara used the resort's luxurious architecture against them. She moved through the air ducts and the service tunnels, appearing and disappearing like a shadow. She didn't stay in one place long enough for them to pin her down. She used a series of localized EMP pulses to fry their radios, leaving them blind and deaf in the dark. To the guards, it felt like the desert itself had breached the walls. A guard would turn a corner and be met with a silent takedown. Another would be lured into a trap in the kitchens, where the industrial steamers were rigged to create a blinding wall of heat. Mara was systematic, cold, and relentless. She was reclaiming the facility one floor at a time. She reached the penthouse level, where Thorne was trying to escape to the rooftop helipad with the black box. He was frantic, his arrogance replaced by a raw, primal fear. When he reached the roof, the wind was screaming and the sand was whipping across the deck. He saw the silhouette of a woman standing by the helicopter, her hair blowing in the gale. It was Mara. She had beaten him to the top. Thorne pulled his sidearm and screamed that she was nothing, just a trash collector who got lucky. Mara didn't even raise her gun. She told him that she had spent her life cleaning up the messes made by men like him, and tonight she was taking out the trash for good. Thorne opened fire, but Mara was already moving. She used the helicopter's landing gear for cover, then closed the distance with a speed that left Thorne stunned. The fight on the rooftop was brief. Thorne was strong, but Mara was a weapon. She disarmed him with a spinning kick, then used a series of rapid-fire strikes to his pressure points that left him paralyzed on the concrete. She took the black box from his shaking hands and looked down at him. She told him that the background noise he had mocked was the last thing he would ever hear. At that moment, the desert sky was filled with the roar of V-22 Ospreys. The U.S. Army Rangers, alerted by Mara's final signal, descended on the oasis like a hammer. As the sun began to rise over the Arizona dunes, the resort was no longer a sanctuary for secrets. It was a crime scene. Federal agents were processing the buyers, and the stolen data was recovered. Elena was being treated by medics, safe and sound. Julian Thorne was led away in heavy chains, his reputation and his empire in ruins. He looked for the janitor, but she was nowhere to be found. The gray uniform was draped over the back of a chair in the lobby, but the woman who had worn it was gone. Mara was already miles away, driving a plain black SUV across the desert flats. She had a new name, a new ID, and a new assignment waiting for her in the mountains of Montana. She looked at the rising sun, the red light reflecting in her steady eyes. She didn't need the glory, and she didn't want the fame. She was a ghost, a guardian in the shadows. And as long as the powerful thought they could hide their sins in the desert, Mara, Sandstorm, Vance would be there, waiting with a mop in one hand and justice in the other. If you enjoyed this story of justice and hidden power, hit that subscribe button to join our community and never miss a mission. We bring you the best underestimated hero stories every week. Thanks for watching.